Right. Do we have everybody here? All of our board members?
Would you like me to do the roll call?
Yeah, let me welcome everybody to the January 6th meeting of the McKinleyville Community Services District. Welcome all, and would you please do a roll call?
Director Bender.
Here.
Director Clark-Peterson.
Present.
Director Couch.
Here.
Director Orsini.
Present.
And President Mayo.
Present. So at this time, I'd like to ask our board secretary to explain our teleconference Zoom procedures for this evening, and if you would, please.
Thank you, President Mayo. So please, if you have any IT issues, we have Joey Blaine, who you can ask questions in the chat or on the questions and answer in order to have him help you out. Public comment will be taken during our C item. And in order to have public comment when the board president announces the agenda item that you wish to comment on, or if it is for public comment that items not on the agenda, you must use the raise your hand feature, which is at the bottom of your screen. If you are on your phone, you will need to press *9 on your phone, which will raise your hand. When it is time for public comment on that item, you wish to speak, you will be recognized by the board president, and you will be allowed to unmute. Please note your unmute and video are disabled throughout this entire meeting, and your audio only will be enabled when called upon, and you will be able to unmute at that time. And just a reminder, you will have 3 minutes to comment. That's it.
Thank you. And have we done the roll call?
Yes, we have.
No, thanks. So I'm going to say just a quick word prior to the Pledge of Allegiance. We had a terrible day today in America, and I don't like to interject national politics into our services district meetings unless it's in reference to legislation that's important to us and those kind of things that we're working on. But, you know, a special district that we all are a part of is such a marvelous form of government, so direct and so responsible to the people that we serve, that it's just a pleasure for us. That ability that we have to do that is rooted in our foundations. So I just wanted to say real quickly something that's a composite of what Congressman Steve Scalise and Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said today that I think is what my heart is wanting to try to say. And they both said the mob does not rule America. Laws do. And we need to respect and listen to each other. And with that, I'd ask Mr. Orsini to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. We have an addition to the agenda tonight, and would the GM like to address that?
Thank you, President Mayo. So on Monday, President Mayo received an email from the Association of California Water Agencies asking if the district would be willing to be a signatory on a letter that they are sending to the 117th Congress. The letter is intended to go out tomorrow. So we only had this board meeting to consider it. So I'd like to add that as item E10 at the end of the agenda, to consider the approval of the district becoming a signatory to the Western Water Letter to the 117th Congress.
So moved.
Okay, there's a move to adopt. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And roll call, please. Unless there's conversation, I apologize. Is there any conversation from the board on a new agenda item? Seeing none, would you please call the roll?
Director Bender,
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson,
Aye.
Director Couch,
Aye.
Director Orsini,
Yes.
President Mayo.
Yes, thank you all. Would someone care to approve the rest of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would you please call the roll?
Director Bender,
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Orsini,
Yes.
and President Mayo.
Yes, thank you. We have no closed sessions scheduled, and we have no public hearing scheduled. So at this time, we would entertain public comment and written communications. These are matters that are germane to the district. Hopefully not on the agenda, as you will have a time to address agenda items at that time. Would the board secretary like to explain one more short time about how the Zoom public comment is going to work?
Yes. So when our board president has announced the agenda item or during this time, and you wish to comment, you must raise your hand. That is at the bottom of your screen on the right-hand side usually. If you are on your phone, please press *9. Once you have your hand raised, then President Mayo will be able to call on you. When you are called upon, you will be allowed to unmute. And just a reminder that you have 3 minutes for public comment.
Okay. What do we have?
Mary Burke has raised her hand.
All right. Welcome, Mary.
Good evening. I just was calling in to wish the new directors a great first meeting and Happy New Year to you all. And I don't know if I'll make it through the whole meeting, but I'm happy to be here and wishing you all well.
Well, thank you very much,
Mary.
Mary. Can you tell me what I'm seeing on my screen that is now 21S little 13?
I would guess that I still have time left.
Oh,
but
okay.
I'll cede that time back to you all.
All right. I guess I should have asked the board secretary about that. Anyway, thank you, Mary, for checking in.
Thank you, Mary.
Anybody else? So Joey, can you put this timer somewhere smaller so that I can see if who's calling in or what? Or is everybody seeing the timer?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So is that okay with, that's not distracting?
Only
That's
slightly.
fine. Okay. Sorry, that's fine. It just caught me unaware. That's all.
Yeah,
So
it's
who's
going
our
to go
next-
away here in just a second.
No, so who's our next speaker?
There are no other hands raised.
All right, very good. Let's move on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. to be acted upon by the board of directors at one time without discussion. If any board member, staff member, or interested person requests that an item be removed from the consent calendar, it shall be removed so that it may be acted upon separately. What is the pleasure of the board?
Yeah, President Mayo, I would like to pull item D6.
And President Mayo, I'd like to pull D4.
Okay. D4 and D6. If there are no others, would I get a motion to approve the other?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, and we have a roll call, please.
Director Bender,
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Orsini,
Yes.
President Mayo.
Yes, thank you. So let's go to item D4, review of the 2020 Integrated Pest Management Plan Annual Report. Now, did you just have a few questions, or would you like me to have James make a bit of a presentation on it?
I'm not sure who would be the right person, but I was just curious what the impetus was to even create a pest policy, just a kind of a nutshell background on the context of it all.
Well, James would be the right one,
Okay.
and it's yes. If you are you on, James?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, if you could give us the Reader's Digest version, that would be fine.
Several years ago, ratepayers approached the board wanting an integrated pest management plan to prevent spraying pesticides on district properties. And then staff, it was myself, Kirsten, and Greg worked on it. And then we got comments back from ratepayers on the draft. And then we went back and forth with additions and subtractions until it became something that everybody could live with. And then we took it to the board and it became the integrated pest management plan. That answer enough, or do you have more?
Kind of. So what's an example maybe of something that is different, and how is it going for staff, the changes?
It is going. How is it going? It adds some labor costs because we used to spray weeds and walk away, and now there's a lot of manual labor on hand pulling weeds. And as far as your first question, a lot of it is by category. I don't know if you reviewed it or not, but it's category 1 through 4, and 3 and 4 we're allowed to use if the labor doesn't work and we can show proof that this didn't work or that didn't work. We can then use a category 3 or 4 pesticide, but we can't use a 1 or 2 without board approval, or the general manager notifies the board unless it's an emergency.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to do the brief one, but I'm
Yeah, totally.
a lot
Yeah.
of stuff.
Yeah, no, that helps get me, begin to get acquainted with it.
Right,
what
and
happened.
thank you, James. That was pretty good. One of the things might mention is the district policy had always been a minimalist policy to begin with, and what we tried to do with this ordinance is to codify some protocols so that the public could see clearly what those protocols were.
Yeah, President Mayo, may I speak? Yeah, so Joellen, if you look on page 48 of the board packet, under D, there's a treatment strategies, and basically you have to exhaust all those treatment strategies before you can resort to using chemicals, and that's sort of the backbone of the policy. And then there's also a pesticide list that was created that James, I almost lost James over that one, working that out, but that basically classifies pesticides by their warning labels, and whether they're how does that work, James? Is that class one or I can't remember how those are classed.
It goes as what the target word, so danger, or hazard, or zero hazard found. It goes by that will start the classification, and then the end, which is the back of which Kirsten created, which is a nice little go-to. It gives you which is on page. I'm trying to figure out the page here. And it's part of it, but it gives you the classification of what we use and what you have to look for first. So first you look at the target word, and then you look for, after danger or less than danger, then you look at danger to aquatic life or danger to, and then you go through that, and it has to meet the criteria in order to be. And so we went through our list of things that we would like to use that are category 3 and 4. And then, like I said, Kirsten created the chart that then broke it down to where it would be safe to use, but after other means have been tried. I'll give you a perfect example. Ants are horrible. And we tried, Windex, and we do this and do that. And it comes down to where, like, the best thing that works for ants is giving them something they'll take back to their nest, are their little taro drops or taro strips, which are a category 3, which are not harmful or don't need board approval, but those seem to be the best thing used for ants. Everything else we've tried, it's either cleaning it up every day and it's climbing on people on their desks and everything else, or and if you call a pesticide company, they don't have anything that would meet class 3 or class 4 to come and help you with. Everything they have is 1 and 2.
Okay, great. I'm glad I'm living in McKinleyville at a time when this policy is in place. So thanks for a little explanation there.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. So can we move on to item D6? Consider approval of a memorandum of understanding between the County of Humboldt, McKinleyville Community Services District for fiscal year 2020-2021. And this would be for Leslie. And before you do that, Leslie, if you don't mind, could I give people a slight update on the COVID testing on Friday?
Absolutely.
From what, so I had quite a few people calling and were unable to get together, make these connections, and I also was having a very hard time. Well, and I didn't make the connection, trying to get set up to make an appointment online. And so I just wanted to give a real quick rundown to help people. When you call the number 634-1123, you'll get someone talking to you, and it's a long spiel. And then they'll ask you for options, and you hit option 1, and then it'll go on some more, and you'll get option 8. And when you hit option 8, you'll get a person, or that was a telephone call. You'll get a live person, and then you can make your appointment. The website is still tough, so I don't know what to tell you on the website, but I just wanted to give you that heads up on the phone. If you do call, you have to wait till you hear options to pick, and you pick option 1. And then you have to wait again until you get to where you can pick option 8. And that will give you a live person, and you can get your test scheduled. If you go down there just trying to get in, you're not going to have any luck. So anyway, just a little info, not all of it, but just a little. So there you go.
Hey, Leslie, before you start as well, President Mayo, can we go back to item D4, and can I get a motion to accept the 2020 Integrated Pest Management Plan.
If you want to do it that way, or would you prefer we wait and do them both at the same time?
No, they're two separate things. One's an approval.
Okay.
One's an acceptance.
Sorry about that. So on D4, can we have a motion to approve in a second, please?
Motion to, I'll second.
All right. Roll call.
Director Bender? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Director Bender.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Clark-Peterson?
Yes.
Director Couch?
Aye.
Director Orsini?
Yes.
And Director Mayo?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. So I guess Leslie, if you're on the line, you could give us a little update on D6.
Well, I'm curious if there's a question first.
Yeah, I can go ahead and I had several questions that I wanted to ask. If the president would rather handle it that way.
It's your floor.
Okay, thank you. So I'm first of all, I would like to make the statement up front that I'm glad that we were able to facilitate the county and getting a testing facility here in McKinleyville. I think that it's in a regular weekly testing facility in McKinleyville here. That's great.
Every Friday.
Every Friday, yes. A couple of my questions is what's the financial obligation of McKinleyville Community Services District related to this agreement?
Financial obligation?
Yes.
It's minimal. I mean, the building, they are using the lobby of the building only. They're bringing their own cleaning supplies and they're sanitizing and cleaning at the end of every session, and they're taking their own garbage away.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the agreement was kind of vague on whether they were going to do custodial. It just said that they would return it to the way they found it. But so I was wondering about that. So that was one of my major concerns, because I know that we've had some issues with the county in the past to where we've allowed them to use facilities without any financial reimbursement. So it was basically on the district's dime for county business. So I didn't want to see us kind of getting in that situation. And then my last question was related to this seems like it's a fairly boilerplate, and I'm sure that the county council has reviewed it and approved it. Did MCSD General Counsel get a chance to review this?
Pat?
General Counsel, so District Council did not review it. Leslie and I reviewed it. We had some back and forth with County Council, but I did not pass it on to our legal counsel because it is pretty boilerplate.
Okay.
And just for a comment, I can't tell you what the schedule is, but they're doing it in our day-wise, but they're doing it in Arcata and Fortuna and McKinleyville and a couple other places. You know, one day a week each spot. So there's 5 spots in the county that they're going. Oh, they go over the hill.
Yeah.
They go over the hill too. So anyway.
I can say this, I haven't tried calling. I had an appointment. I made an appointment in Arcata on Monday. Once you do the online registration one time and you note your patient ID, the online registration and appointment making becomes really simple. But the first time they ask you for a bunch of information. After that, it gets really easy.
Well, simple for you, darling, but not me. I have a number, and that I couldn't make it work. But you know, I have to have Joey turn my machine on for me too. So there you go.
Yeah, it's challenging. I know there's no perfect system, but yeah, they're in Arcata on Mondays. I know that, and McKinleyville on Fridays. So, yeah. And their appointment schedule opens up a week before they're going to be there. So, for appointments on a week from this Friday in McKinleyville, that schedule opens up this Friday. Yeah. So that's the information I know in terms of scheduling.
Thank you very much. Barring any other comments, I'll move to accept the item D6.
Would you care to make a motion that way?
I think I just did.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Director Bender.
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson.
Yes.
Director Couch.
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Aye.
And President Mayo.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving to E, continued in new business. And at this time, we would like to do E1, presentation of the MCSD Employee of the Year Award to Drew Small. And would that be our general manager?
It would be. Thank you, President Mayo. So each year, McKinleyville Community Services District employees vote for an Employee of the Year. This award and recognition was started by Norman Chopay in 2009. Previous awardees are Sharon Dennison, Tony Rutten, James Henry, Leslie Frisbee, Bill McBroom, David Baldasser, Diane Sloan, Chris Jones, Jennifer Olson, Eric Jones, and Patrick Kyle Stone. The Employee of the Year is a person who has brought significant positive change, eliminates obstacles in achieving district goals and objectives, is resourceful, contributes constructively, is innovative, exceeds expectation, inspires others, and proactively identifies and resolves challenges. The Employee of the Year is chosen through a secret ballot by their peers and as judged upon merit. The 2020 Employee of the Year is awarded to Drew Small. Drew is very much appreciated and admired by his peers. His hard work at the wastewater management facility has definitely not gone unnoticed. He takes responsibility and ownership of the treatment process, strives to be the best he can be, and really takes pride in a job well done. He's a natural leader and inspires others. His solution-oriented attitude helps to make the work of the district more effective and efficient. Drew also has a lifelong love of learning and approaches it with passion. He continues to strive for perfection and has the certifications to prove it. Drew's goal is to move up through the district to someday be the general manager, and we have no doubt that he will be someday. Drew will hold this distinction for the 2021 calendar year with a new employee elected at the end of the year. Staff recommends that the board recognize Drew Small as Employee of the Year and participates in the presentation of the award to him.
Thanks.
Yay, Drew.
Thank you. I was given this.
Go ahead, Drew.
This is what you gave me, Pat. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, and job well done. Recently, on a walk down near the wastewater treatment facility, Drew introduced himself to me. And we had a nice discussion, and he answered some questions for me, got to know me a little bit better, and offered to make himself available if I had any other further questions. And one of these days, I'm looking forward to a tour of the facility. I left my little meeting with him with a very positive impression of his character. So I think that this award is well deserved. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, Scott, I think he's a character too.
I look forward to meeting you, Drew. Thank you. That's impressive.
Yeah, thank you. It'll be nice to meet you. You can come and do a tour of the plant.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Dennis, I have something. I'm going to assume reading your lips, it's a go. Yes?
Sorry, you guys, I had muted because I was coughing. I didn't turn back on. I was wondering why you guys were not listening to me.
Yeah. You had all these nice things to say about Drew and nobody heard them.
I know. Well, I take them all back.
Yeah, a couple of things I would like to thank board member Scott Bender for letting us know that Drew wasn't working and was just talking while he was on the clock. So we'll take care of that. Just kidding.
Just walking up the gate.
Yeah. So it was after 5. Thanks, Drew.
I think it was on Christmas.
No, Drew, everything said in here is accurate and correct. With Drew's a go-getter, and he strives to be the best he can be. He's gone after a lot of certifications. He's taken the fast path, and doing a great job. We're super proud of Drew. We're super happy to have him. And he definitely, my biggest fear, he has been working hard to get this Employee of the Year. And now that he's gotten it, my fear is he may stop working. But we'll see how that goes, because you can get it again, Drew. So I just want to make sure that's known. But good job, Drew.
Thank you, James.
Thanks. Thanks, James. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you. Yeah. So anyway, Drew, I was part of the process that hired Drew, and it was apparent from the interviews how what a great guy Drew was and how driven he was, and so it was not much of a surprise once he started working for the district just how competent he is and how driven he is, and his just goes above and beyond the call. So thank you very much, Drew, for your service to the district, and I'm glad that you were recognized with this award.
Thank you.
David?
Well, I just want to give you a congratulations. I don't know you well enough to give any more details, and it's too bad we're not in a regular meeting, because we could have cake after
We
celebrate. We usually do, but getting
Yeah.
cut out tonight.
When we get back to regular meetings, we're going to have one huge cake for everybody. Kind of a deal. And I just want to say, Drew, thank you. The $10 I gave you to talk to Bender worked out okay, it seems.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. No, congratulations, Drew. Really, really congratulations.
Hey, Drew, I'm curious, what's your favorite part of the job and or working for the district?
I like the crew. I like everyone that I work with. We get along real well, and we're real tight knit. I like the importance of the job and feeling valuable. That's a really big deal to me. So it's kind of my why every day. So that is fulfilled very easily here. So, and yeah.
And me.
And yes.
That's great. Thanks.
That's the comic relief, Andrew. Anyway, thank you, sir. Moving on to E2, consideration of the Burris appeal. And is that James? Is that you?
James can do it, but I'll do it instead.
Oh, okay. Thank you, General Manager.
Sure. Thank you, President Mayo. So as the board heard last board meeting in December, Carolyn Hal Burris had a water leak in October 2020. MCSD noted the leak after the October meter read and called Mr. Burris, who requested that the service be shut off. He then located and fixed the break immediately after he was notified of the leak. However, the leak was perfectly timed in that it was leaking very slowly at the September meter read, but then it broke, and right after the read, and it leaked all of October and was noticed after the October meter read. Meanwhile, enough water went through the meter to cause a bill of $1,947.10. It appeared that the leak was caused by others driving over the water meter box, causing it to sink, which then caused stress on the section of the pressure reducing valve located on the customer side of the meter, resulting in a break and a massive leak. Per the MCSD water leak adjustment policy, the maximum amount of any single adjustment by the general manager shall not exceed $750. As discussed at the December board meeting, the Burses are appealing the leak adjustment amount limit because they feel this was something that was out of their control, as they did not choose the location of the meter box nor install the meter box. As directed by the board at the December board meeting, Operations Director Henry and General Manager Kaspari met Mr. Burris at his home on Monday, December 7th. They reviewed the location of the meter box and possible remedies to prevent future damage to the meter box and the connecting pipe. The recommended solution that was agreed upon by all parties included the district raising the meter box back up and installing gravel under it to prevent further sinking. Mr. Burris was then going to extend his piping with a thicker wall pipe and install a concrete pad around the box to further protect it. District staff went out and raised the box on Wednesday, December 9th. The remaining item is the bill amount. The total bill minus the typical water charges per month is $1,933.90. Mr. Burris feels like if he would have been notified sooner of the leak and been notified of the leak flag that was coded with the flow data, the leak would have been fixed earlier. It should be noted that the line NPRV on the customer side of the meter was located just below the meter box, so any settlement of the box could and did break the line. The location of the meter box was also selected by the original homeowner prior to Mr. and Mrs. Burris. That all being said, all parties agreed we would ask the board for a 75-25 split, or having the district cover $1,450.43, and Mr. and Mrs. Burris cover $483.48, plus the original $13.20 from their regular bill, or a total of $496.68. In accordance with the McKinleyville Community Service District rules and regulations, the procedure for appeals is as follows. Rule 65.01, the board may, in specific cases, grant an appeal from any decision made by staff applying the standards incorporated into these rules and regulations whenever it finds A, that special circumstances exist in a particular case, and B, that practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship would result from strict interpretation or enforcement of any standard, and C, that the granting of such an appeal would not tend to defeat the purposes of these rules and regs. So staff recommends that the board review the appeal application from Hal and Carol Burris, consider the testimony related to the appeal, and consider the appeal. I know Mr. Burris is also in the attendees, but I'll turn it back over to you, President Mayo.
Thank you so much.
Mike,
Just as my 2 cents worth, I'm very happy with this arrangement, and if the Burrises are happy with it, I think it's a good conclusion for all of us. But I'd open it up to the other board members if any of you have any comment on this.
I do.
Please.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. So, so since there was a third party involved in this, somebody running it over, was there any attempt to recoup any of this money from the people that actually ran the meter box over? That's a question I had. And another thing too is, regardless of how this all shakes out, I think that the sewer charge for this should be forgiven regardless of whether we go beyond the $750 limit on the water leak adjustment, because we know for sure the water went on the ground, it didn't go down the drain, so I see absolutely no reason to charge them the extra sewer charges. That's all I had.
Thank you. I'll make a quick comment on the placement of that meter box. Was able to be driven over and parked on by many people over a period of time. So I don't know whether we could ascertain specifics. The general manager might know. And as to Director Orsini's question about sewer part of that, has that been figured into this rate, GM, or not?
It has. So there were no sewer charges associated with that. So that is straight the water charges.
Okay.
And with regards to who is driving over the box, Mr. Burris wasn't exactly sure either. It wasn't his neighbor right there. He knew that, but
And it wasn't Mr. Burris.
And it wasn't Mr. Burris, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, any Director Clark Peterson?
Yeah, this starts making me think about my own water meter, which I don't even know if that's what it is, but in front of my house, I have a water meter where people could easily park on it, and I never thought about it at all. But if this is potentially a problem, I'm gonna go check it out. Yeah, how often do we go beyond policy? Is it kind of once in a blue moon, or yeah, you remember several instances, or just curious, how often does something like this happen where we go beyond policy?
Not often.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Rarely.
Rarely, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe every couple of years.
Okay, thanks for the definition of rarely, yeah.
Okay, I'd just like to make a comment. At the last board meeting, I was in attendance, although I wasn't a director then, and I heard Mr. Burris speak, and he brought up the solution himself, that he were to shoulder, he said that he'd go 50-50. I think that's pretty admirable. It shows that he is stepping up and taking responsibility. I don't know whether he has some sort of a moral or ethical thing, but if staff worked out a 75-25 split, then that's fine with me.
Okay. So I would like us just to go ahead and move a motion and move forward on this, but I think if you know the situation and care to make a comment, Mr. Burris, this would be the appropriate time if you care to.
Mr. Burris, I'm going to make you a panelist. Just a moment. You'll go out and you'll come back in just a second. And you are welcome to unmute and speak if you would like.
There we go. Yeah, when I met with James Henry and Pat that day, I had researched through the log meters, and I found out that it had actually been reading as a leak on September. And I'm willing to go ahead with the agreement that Pat and I came to on that day. But in the future, the first month that there indicates there was a leak, if I could be notified, we could have avoided a lot of this.
Right. That's our intent at all times, Mr. Burris, and so I'm glad that you feel that this is an adequate settlement.
I have another question that generates another question for me. So from the time the leak started, and staff might be able to answer this, or Mr. Burris might be able to answer this. So from the time the leak started till the time you were notified was how long?
Well, the leak looked like it started around 10:13 on 9/5, and it started sending the leak signal out on 9/6 at 10:13. It's a 24-hour. It requires 24 hours of continuous flow before it sends out the leak indicator.
Right.
They read it on 9/8, and then I was notified on 10/8. So it was literally the day after he read it, it became a full-on break and just poured for, what is that? October has 31 days.
Yes.
Yeah, Greg. Sorry, Greg. Yeah, it was a perfect storm right after the September read, or right at the September read. It was just barely leaking, so it didn't really trigger a flag when we got the read from September, because hardly any.
So it sat there and spewed then for a full 30 days.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm willing to make a motion per staff's recommendation, the 75-25 split.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Let's have a Actually, if we have anybody from the public that wants to comment on this, we'll open it now.
There are no hands raised, President Mayo.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Binder,
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson,
Aye.
Director Couch,
Aye.
Director Orsini,
Yes.
and President Mayo.
Yes, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Burris.
You're welcome.
All right, we're moving on to E3. Consider participation in the feasibility analysis to extend Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District water services to the Trinidad Rancheria. And I just want to first say that we're considering here simply a study. That's the parameter of this agenda item, is whether we support a study. So having said that, I'm going to ask our board secretary if she would explain how presentations are going to be made on this item.
Okay, I believe that our general manager will first give an overview of this item. We will then hear from Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District and Trinidad Rancheria. And then at that point, we will be able to ask for public comment, and people will be able to give comments after that.
Thank you so much. General Manager, if you would, please.
Thank you, President Mayo. So as you just mentioned, Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District General Manager John Friedenbach submitted a letter to MCSD inquiring whether we'd be willing to participate in investigating the feasibility of connecting a water line extension to the Trinidad Rancheria from the MCSD water distribution system. HBMWD would like to know whether MCSD is willing to even consider the concept of a line extension from the north end of our distribution grid. If the district is unwilling to allow for the possibility of a connection, then the feasibility analysis will not bother to explore this alternative and would have to pursue other options. Trinidad Rancheria has approached Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District to determine their willingness to provide water to the Rancheria to supplement the water from the city of Trinidad. HBMWD is the regional water wholesaler, and their district boundaries coincides generally with MCSD's boundary to the north. But since they are a water wholesaler, it would be possible for them to obtain a change in point of use from the State Water Resources Control Board to serve the Rancheria. MCSD's service area boundary ends at Dow's Prairie to the north, so we could not sell our water directly to the Rancheria without approval from LAFCO to revise our service area boundaries. However, HBMWD could likely utilize MCSD's system for wheeling the water to the Rancheria. The MCSD system would then basically serve as an extension of the HBMWD distribution system. A water line would still have to be constructed from the north end of our system to the Rancheria, but the use of the district system would eliminate the need to construct a line all the way from Humboldt Bay's system in Arcata to the Rancheria. If this alternative is deemed feasible, the retail water contract would be between Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District and the Rancheria. However, there would also need to be a contract between Humboldt Bay and MCSD, or MCSD would have to be part of that contract between Humboldt Bay and the Rancheria to recoup our costs for the reuse of the system. There are numerous other questions and concerns associated with this alternative and the overall discussion of a water line extension to the Trinidad Rancheria. The feasibility study would begin to address these questions, and again, Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District is interested at this juncture only in whether the district is willing to consider this alternative. There are other various community concerns, opinions, and background material that are included in the board packet. So at this time, staff recommends that the board review the information provided, discuss take public comment, and approve working with Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District and Trinidad Rancheria to assess the feasibility of extending water service to the Rancheria via Wheeling Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District water through the MCSD water distribution system. Staff further recommends that any feasibility studies remain cost neutral to MCSD and direct costs be borne by those interested in being served.
Thank you, General Manager. If there are no objections from the board, I would like to, at this time, let the presentations continue, and we can have board questions after each presentation if you'd like. Thank you.
So Joey, if you could let John Friedenbach and Sherry Wu in, and then John, when you get in, I noticed that Bruce Rupp was also in attendance. Do you want him brought in as well?
John is still muted.
John, you're still muted.
I'm moving them over right now.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry about that. So you can invite Bruce in. Your district is within Sherry Wu's division of the Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, and I think Sherry Wu is on the call as well.
Yes, John, we have Sherry here, and would you like her to be unmuted with you?
Please.
Thank you. So you can go ahead, John, while Sherry's being unmuted.
Okay.
Go ahead and proceed.
Sure. I don't have a formal presentation. Your general manager laid out the issue very clearly in his staff report. You have our initial December 4th request letter in front of you. So it's a pretty simple issue, I think, in terms of this first step. And that's all we're asking you to consider as this initial first step.
Thank you. Sherry, would you like to say something?
No, sure. Just mainly wanted to say thank you to this board, because I know that the packet materials, I don't know if you printed it out, but I assume it would have been at least a half inch or so. There was a lot to read there, so thank you. And also just to thank the public who's come. I kind of assume that there's some people who might want to talk about this issue. So thanks for all your interest and your energy and your time for coming up and speaking at this meeting. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry. You know, John, perhaps you might slightly enlighten everybody about the long-term strategic planning effort that Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District has done relative to our permit for our water rights on the Mad River, and how this was part of that whole study, somewhat.
Right. So after the two pulp mills closed on the Small Peninsula, our water district was left with 65 million gallons a day of excess water supply in our water rights. And our board at the time, 2009, entered into a public engagement process, which was called water resource planning. And we had representatives from various industries and labor and a full broad spectrum of public interest was represented on that panel. And they worked for, I think it was 2 years, on coming up with strategy recommendations to our board of how Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District could put to beneficial use those excess 65 million gallons a day in our water rights. As your board knows, California water rights are basically use it or lose it, and our board wants to maintain local control over our water rights and the water in the Mad River. The Water Resource Planning Group came up with 3 primary strategies. Well, they came up with a spectrum of strategies, but the 3 that were of most importance were increasing local sales which this would qualify under that category. Transport, which is piping water to preferably another municipal water district somewhere in Northern California. And then in-stream flow, which is basically dedicating some of the water right to enhance the environmental and habitat in the Mad River. So those are the three areas that the Water Resource Planning Group emphasized and recommended to our board. So this is just a potential project that could fall under increasing local sales.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Sherry, any additional comment on that?
No, not really. Just
Okay.
to guess, maybe stress again that this is a feasibility study only. Our board certainly has not made any decisions, pro or con, for or against, and we're all just really looking at the information and that we're going to need to generate more information. I would say that a part of that information really is it feasible from a political standpoint? Do people want the water? Or, you know, so that's part of it.
All right. Thank you, Sherry. So who do we have next? The Rancheria presentation?
Yes, I am bringing them in now.
All right.
Hey, Joey. Shirley Laos also just joined us as well.
Thank you, will do.
And Jackie, he's bringing you up here pretty quick. And are we going to bring Garth in as well with Jackie?
Garth isn't, I don't believe Garth is
Oh,
here.
Garth's not here. Is Shirley?
Shirley is, and Joey, actually, Robert Hempstead, you brought in Robert, Jess, but Robert Hempstead is also with the Rancheria.
Yeah. So Jackie, would you like to have all of you unmuted at the same time, or do you have a preference?
Yes, I would like to thank you, President Mayo and Board of Directors. I would like to honor our Vice Chair, Robert Hempstead, first, who is on the Tribal Council, and then myself.
All right, very good. Mr. Hempstead, if you would, sir. I don't think we have you unmuted, Robert. Bear with us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you for being here, and appreciate hearing from you on this item.
No, I appreciate the board's time, and as previous commenters have stated, everybody holds an interest in this is going to come here, communicate, as you have made a statement at the beginning of the meeting. So what people should be about. Everybody should be able to have a voice and make their statements. And, you know, I appreciate the board's time putting this on the agenda and just opening it up for the consideration of the feasibility.
Very good. And now, would you care to have Jackie make a fuller presentation at this time?
Yes, I think this time she can move forward with any other information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hempstead.
Thank you again, Board of Directors. I do not have a formal presentation. I believe the packet was very comprehensive, and everything that was submitted to Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District was shared with McKinleyville Community Services District. I think the biggest issue, the point is, we do need water, and the city of Trinidad has embarked upon numerous studies, and they do believe that there is a water shortage. And Trinidad Rancheria, as you well know, is a tribal government, a sovereign nation, and it's imperative that they can provide for the general welfare of the tribal members, as well as the economic development of the tribe. And so that's our goal, is to secure water that will provide for the tribe and the tribal membership. And as you can see from the packet, there has been intense planning and studies that have been done over the last 10 years. And we feel very confident that we can move forward in a positive direction with Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District and McKinleyville Community Services District, as well as any other entities or agencies that want to be part of this study and to be a good partner. So those are the goals of the Rancheria. And politics aside, I believe, you know, as Director John Friedenbach mentioned, the Humboldt Bay has water and they are in the business of providing water. We need water. And so we see McKinleyville Community Services District as an excellent partner and someone we would love to work with. And we really appreciate your time tonight and to discuss this issue. I do believe that it's very important to not allow the political arena to overshadow the need for the Rancheria to acquire additional water. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And Shirley, are you wanting to also make some comments for the Rancheria?
Hello, this is Shirley Laus, Governmental Affairs Coordinator for the tribe and also a tribal member. Hi, thank you for hearing the Rancheria tonight. I'm here to support the CEO and our Vice Chair, and I'll reserve any other comments unless there's some clarification that we need after public comment. Thank you.
All right, that's fine. So before we move on to the next level of this, I'm going to open up these two presentations to the board for board comments or questions. So just raise your hand or start talking.
I'll reserve my comments until after public comment.
All right. How everybody else feel the same way? All right. So, April, if you would be so kind as to let us start having a little public comment.
Okay, at this time, I don't see any hands raised. Just please remember, if you would like to have public comment, that you will need to use the raise your hand feature and you will be called upon. If you're on the phone, which I do see we have a couple of phone call listeners, you will need to hit *9 in order to make public comment. I have no hands.
Okay, very good. So back to the board.
Yeah.
Yep, go right ahead.
When you push your space bar, it mutes you, and then anyway. So as you know, as the Rancheria being another local government, and they're requesting for safe and adequate drinking water, I think that the study, it should be a no-brainer that the study should move forward. I'm fully supportive of that, and also as a water professional, I don't see any liability in the resiliency of water systems. So I can't imagine now, being that we've looked at this before, this is going to be a bridge pretty far to get through. So I know that it's going to take a lot of patience and a lot of perseverance to pull this off if we can get it done. But I absolutely see no reason not to do the study.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard some from the community on both sides, so it's been interesting to be learning about the complexity really of it ultimately as a whole picture. But I think that's all the more reason to be doing a study. So yeah,
Okay.
but I wish there had been public comment. I was curious to hear even more.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well,
I
there
was
will be
expecting public comment.
there will be in the future. Don't worry. I guarantee you.
Yeah, we're just getting off easy tonight.
Right. So, any other comments?
Well, I was going to say, I support doing the study too. I mean, for a long time, those of us in the water industry have known that Humboldt Bay is a surplus of water, and it would be good if they develop more customers and, you know, have more water sales to make them, help them out. And I'm also aware that this is kind of a controversial project, but I don't think the providing water should be how it's decided. That should be go through the zoning and, you know, all those other issues. You know, I don't think we should try to regulate their project by saying that you can't have water. That's not the way I think things should work, really. So those are my comments.
Very good. Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, just
I
one
have
other
to
thing.
agree with Director Couch as well. We're just the conduit here if the project goes through, and anything else is between HB Mud and the Rancheria. So yeah.
Yeah.
Director Orsini?
Yeah, just one other thing on a macro level. It's illegal to use utilities to shut somebody down as far as it goes related to limiting somebody's ability to be able to do something. So
Yeah, and so I appreciate those comments. I just wanted to make a comment too. You know, we worked on state water issues, and believe it or not, state water issues affect our region as well. We're not exempt, but the state Safe Drinking Water Program and the Water Resiliency Program and the Water to Disadvantaged Communities is all not just supportive, but it's law. That it's our responsibility in California to provide water, safe drinking water, water with resiliency, and especially to disadvantaged communities, or to and I hate to use this word. It doesn't mean what you think it does. Substandard entities. Okay, it doesn't mean that the entity is substandard always in terms of the management or finances. It's that the water quality and availability is substandard. So this is almost kind of in my opinion, a gimme. Nonetheless, that's not decisions that we're going to make. We're, as a district, I hope, are eventually going to decide, if this happens, to be willing partners in the pass-through. So, having said that, I would entertain a motion. Oh, Director Couch?
So I had one more comment on it, that you know, to make sure that this actually benefits the people of McKinleyville, our district, is besides it being a pass-through that's revenue neutral, I would like to have it financially benefit the district the same amount if we were selling them the water. And that's just so that, you know, we just gain a new water customer, and they can contribute money to our infrastructure expansion when we have to do it. And you know, they'll just, I mean, I don't want to gouge them, but I want them to pay the same amount that any other customer would, basically, on top of what they pay Humboldt Bay.
Right. I think that's something that we'll need to vet, and that's for future conversation, but it's certainly warranted to have that conversation. All right. I'm going to ask for a roll call.
we don't have a motion yet.
Well, then let's have a motion, please.
I move we participate in a feasibility analysis to extend HBMW water service to Trinidad Rancheria.
And I'll second that.
Roll call.
Director Binder,
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson,
Aye.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Orsini,
Aye.
and President Mayo.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. And Mr. Rupp, I apologize, sir, for not calling on you, but I think we've done what you were interested in.
Yeah, believe it or not, I have nothing to say. Thank you very much, folks.
I'm gonna put that on my calendar.
Yeah, write that down.
Thank you all. All right, so let's move on to.
Thank you, everyone. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
it. Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you.
We're going to move on to item E4. Consider approval of the right of entry and design agreement between Humboldt Skateboard Collective and McKinleyville Community Services District. And I think, and I don't think, but Leslie is going to make the presentation, if you would, please.
Okay. So in August of 2019, Wendy and Jason Orlandi contacted MCSD Parks and Recreation to discuss the potential options in McKinleyville for the development of a BMX track. Staff identified the undeveloped 3-acre parcel at School Road and Washington Avenue as a possible location for a BMX track. Since that time, the Orlandis have conducted community outreach to get input from the residents living adjacent to the property and have established a relationship with the Humboldt Skate Park Collective, which is now serving as the umbrella nonprofit for this project. Under the umbrella of the Humboldt Skate Park Collective, the Orlandis have created a governing committee for the development and operation of a BMX track in McKinleyville. In December of 2019, a public input meeting to inform residents of the potential project and gather input was hosted at Azalea Hall. 25 residents attended that meeting and provided input regarding the location and concept of the BMX track at the School Road and Washington Avenue parcel. The majority of the attendees supported the concept. There were a few who had concerns about potential noise and excessive dust created by the project. The Orlandis and other interested community members, along with the Humboldt Skate Park Collective, have worked steadily with district staff and the Park and Recreation Committee to develop a concept design and plan for development for a BMX track. The presentation of the concept was made to the MCSD board in September of 2020. The Park and Recreation Committee voted approval to recommend that the MCSD board approve the right of entry and design agreement between Humboldt Skate Park Collective and MCSD at the December 17th, 2020 Park and Recreation Committee meeting. The Humboldt Skate Park Collective and the BMX community are poised to begin the design process in earnest, as well as to begin soliciting donations for the project. The next step is to get permission from the district to move forward in this process. Working with the Humboldt Skate Park Collective, staff have drafted a right of entry and design agreement, which can be reviewed in attachment 1. The agreement is modeled after the existing right of entry and design agreement with the Humboldt Skate Park Collective for the design and development of a skate park at Pearson Park. Additionally, staff has begun drafting an agreement for operations and maintenance between Humboldt Skate Park Collective and MCSD for a BMX track. The draft, which is still in process and has questions to be answered and considered, can be reviewed in attachment 2. Feedback and input from the board on the draft agreement is welcome at this time. Staff recommends that the board review the information provided, air questions, take public comment, discuss and approve the right of entry and design agreement between the Humboldt Skate Park Collective and the McKinleyville Community Services District. Questions?
Yeah, I had some questions on this, Director or President Mayo. Can I go ahead and ask? Yeah.
Hey, Dennis, your mic is muted.
What?
Oh, I just told Dennis his mic was muted.
Oh, okay. He's nodding maybe. I'll go ahead. So I just for the whole BMX topic. I think it's awesome that we're adding more recreation for sure. And I did have a couple questions to understand this. I'm just thinking of like the worst case scenario and McKinleyville's ability to maintain more recreation places, even if it is just maybe the parking lot and some bathrooms and maybe something else. But with Little League, similar relationship, have there ever been even the tiniest little issues? I'm just wondering, like, what does come up in this kind of relationship?
They weren't tiny, baby.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Exciting stuff, huh?
Oh, it can be. Yes, indeed.
I mean, it's a fluid, these relationships are fluid and they change over time because the people who are participating change over time.
Right.
So, when Humboldt or when the Hiller Sports Complex was built, the folks on the board of McKinleyville Little League were a certain group of people, and then that changes over time and everybody has their own interpretations of how the agreements should be. But, we try to be really clear with our written agreements, and I think that has helped those relationships. And I think as long as we can be really clear and we review them annually, so that whenever the positions change, whoever's coming on board, has a chance to see.
Yeah. Okay. So you're feeling pretty good about having another one of these kinds of relationships and agreements?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely possible, and I think it is in good service to the community.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And it won't be the last one that we'll initiate either. So,
no, it's kind of how we have to do business, I think, sometimes.
right. And the fail safe is in our policies and procedures, and having them very clear. That does not mean that there aren't disagreements on what those policies and procedures mean from time to time. So, all in all, our experience in the recreational world has been real positive.
Oh, cool. Okay. So it's not like we're going to get stuck with a mess or something if people change.
I won't go that far.
Okay.
Sorry.
We try really hard to be forward thinking and think ahead of like what are the potential pitfalls, and then put measures in place and agreements in place to handle those things. But nothing's perfect. You can't predict all the things, but
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
I've got something.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think Joellen, one of the robustness is whatever. Why our recreational programs here in McKinleyville are so good is because of a lot of our partnerships. So I think we'll just lend into that same basic thing. A couple of questions, Leslie, that I have, if it's okay, President Mayo, to ask Leslie some questions. And one is how close is this to is this pretty much templated off of the agreement that we have with the skate park?
Yes.
Or it's different. It's so like the indemnity clause and everything like that's the same one that we have with the
exactly the same.
Yeah, and so then my only other question I had was which I appreciate when Charlie comes and gives his briefings. I've seen this one, they're going to give you a report, but there's no requirement for them to come back and report to the board.
In the agreement?
Yeah.
Oh, but okay, yeah, no, there isn't a requirement, but it's not required that it's not in the
court
agreement for the skate park either. He just
Charlie doesn't have to. That's not required that he gives the quarterly reports. Oh, he just does. Okay.
It's required to give quarterly reports to the director, the recreation director, but not to the board of directors.
Okay.
And then you'll bring that back to us at meetings.
Yeah, and just like Charlie comes every quarter to do for the skate park.
You would expect that they would do the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. That's fine.
Or at least provide the information to me to be able to give to you.
Okay.
Charlie just does that because he loves to see us.
Yeah, he likes hanging out with us. So anyways, well then the only other thing is I reviewed and thank you very much, staff, for giving us the formal agreement for the operating and maintenance of it for us to review. I've got substantial comments, but I won't belabor us during the meeting with that. I'll go ahead and provide those to staff.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, no, it's very much in draft form. There's a lot of questions. I think you could see, like I even had questions. So
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
Right. Yes, this is in its infancy.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, did we have anybody wanting to comment on this from outside, Leslie?
We do have several
April.
hands raised.
Yes.
Leslie, did you want the Orlandis to do, to speak to this first? Did they have like a presentation or anything with this?
They didn't have a formal presentation. If they want to speak as part of public comment, I would welcome it.
Director Mayo, do you want to call on that on each person, or do you want me to do that?
Just if it's all right, just tell me who's up and when they're done, and then tell me when the next person's up, and let's just let everybody have their comments.
Okay, so we'll just go in order. So it looks like Casey Cowman is first.
Welcome.
Hi, I just wanted to say Happy New Year's to everyone and thank you guys for everything you're doing. I just wanted to be in support of the local BMX track here in McKinleyville. And that's all I'm pretty much here to do, is be supportive and hope that we can get something for our kids and families to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Wendy and Jason Orlandi.
Hi, I just wanted to express that our youth in Humboldt County are really underserved, and we have the highest trauma rates in the state of California. And I think it's really important to have something in that space for children. And I think that a park is great, but I think we really need more than a park. We need a village. We need a community of families that can gather regularly and frequently and be there to support one another. And a BMX park provides that. You know, we come together, we gather, we provide a lot of support for the kids and each other in promoting honesty and safety and security. And I really want to thank you for an opportunity. I mean, basically what we're asking for is a place to volunteer, to spend time with these kids. And my hope is that these kids will grow up and look back and appreciate that time that we spent with them and pass that gift forward to the future generation, and that we can grow and have a lot of fun together. Did you want to say something?
Hey, this is Jason Orlandi. I just want to say thank you guys also. Being a registered nurse, working with kids, adolescents, I know that oftentimes we tend to run into 1 in 5 kids in our county is obese. And as we tend to get bigger, we don't always necessarily have open spaces for them to go be active and safe. So that was one of my main concerns when we first approached the Recreation Committee, was just, what can we do for everybody as a whole? And I nothing but appreciate everybody's time as always for working with us and helping us through this project and potentially letting us move forward with that. That being said, the only other thing I wanted to address, I know sometimes there may be some people listening in with questions about it. I know one of the things that somebody brought up earlier with maintaining some of our parks, the thing with the track too was that it hopefully can generate some money to help maintain the majority of the park, so that we don't have one of these areas that just kind of gets maybe just kind of overrun, or we want it to look beautiful. We want to have that nice place for the kids and for the families and everybody, and just for the casual person walking through the park, having a nice place to go for a walk from one neighborhood to the other. And so I don't want to take too much of everybody's time, but again, thank you very much as always.
Next, we have Jody.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for giving us this time. Again, I want to reiterate everything that both people before me have said, this is an opportunity that we are trying to have all these kids have something to do. If you're in McKinleyville and you have someone over the age of 5, you really don't have a place other than the Hammond Trail to take them be active. In this trying time of the pandemic, you see so many people walking, biking. So the need is there to have people of all ages be able to go somewhere, create a community, make memories that are going to bring more people to McKinleyville, spend money, spend time, all the things that we need, you know, is this good, positive interaction. This is a community that we volunteer. We're the ones in there cleaning the bathrooms. We're the ones sweeping the dirt on the track. So it is an endeavor that we are taking and know that we are going to put in just as much time as the guys in Little League that are out there combing the fields and doing all the stuff to maintain. So we appreciate your time, and we hope that this is something that we can just keep making steps that will the community will get behind. Thank you.
Next is Charlie Caldwell.
Welcome, Charlie.
Hi, you guys. Yeah, the Orlandis have done a fantastic job. They've developed a fantastic team to work with the collective. I want to, and the whole BMX organization is a very wonderful group to work with. So I'm excited about this. It's another place for, as I see it, for kids and families to get together, come together, and bring people from out of the area. The other thing I see that's happening here, much like with the skate park, is it becomes part of our recreation group, our recreation for kids. Working with MCSD and the recreation department and Leslie, it's opportunities to do camps, do BMX camps, just like skateboard camps, and bring in revenue for MCSD and the recreation department. So I'm excited about it. Looking forward to seeing this happen.
Thank you, Charlie. Always good to hear from you.
Next is Robert.
Welcome, Robert.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say, we really appreciate you guys putting together this park. We've traveled around a lot, and we've decided to call McKinleyville home. And everywhere we've gone, we've done BMX, and it's always been a welcoming, positive environment for our kids. And we're very excited to see the park moving forward, and excited that you guys are taking this next step. And I think it's going to be a great, positive thing for the kids in the community, welcoming other individuals as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Hannah Hertel.
Welcome, Hannah.
Hello, good evening, McKinleyville board members and attendees. My name is Hannah Hertel. I'm a registered dental hygienist, and my family and I currently reside here in McKinleyville area. We are here tonight to express our support for the building of a BMX track in McKinleyville. There are many benefits that an Olympic sport such as BMX can provide for a community, not only as a safe place or space for our children to play, but also as a place that gives them purpose. My son has been in the BMX community since age 5 and races the circuit on many different levels. I have seen the commitment, dedication, and health that this sport provides him. I have watched him help younger kids on the track, teaching and learning alongside them. I have seen him work hard throughout the summer only to lose in a final event. And I have watched him become state #1 champion the following year with more determination and grit than I have ever before. This sport helps kids focus and it keeps them moving. It is not only an outlet for athletic skills, but it is also a community of people. The people are generous, kind, supportive, and will do anything they can to help. They fundraise, donate, and they work to keep community ties together. I hope you will approve tonight's request for this amazing opportunity for an Olympic sport to come into our area. Not only can this provide a safe space for our children, but also a bright future for McKinleyville. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Jamie Kester.
Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. I'm also here with my husband, Carl. I just want to tack on the other positive notes, what others are saying. We live in the neighborhood of the Dina Linda Marty neighborhood. We moved here 14 years ago, a lot of original owners in this neighborhood, not a lot of kids. Since that time, right now, currently, we have about 9 kids that ride the neighborhood. I think the location is a great opportunity for these kids to expand their riding besides up and down the street. They've formed quite a good friendship. You can tell we enjoy watching them outside, playing, becoming friends. Other than that, my son started racing when he was 4. He just turned 15 yesterday. We formed so many great friends. I do want to also add that 2 of his best friends are at what you would say, I guess, rival schools. So I think that's a pretty neat thing with that BMX. When you form friendships, it doesn't matter what school you attend. He's at McKinleyville High. His best friend's at Arcata High. Another best friend is going to be at Eureka High next year. So I think that's also a great camaraderie sport. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And next we have Liberty Harris Pinto.
Welcome.
Hi, I am new to the McKinleyville area, although I've lived in Humboldt County a while. I'm here with my partner, Josh, and I just wanted to speak to the trend that, the bicycling trend that we have become fully immersed in, and we have a 7-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 17-year-old, and we all have really just enjoyed biking together. And recently we've met Jason, and we met Jamie and Carl and their families, and we've been having a really good time biking with them. So I just wanted to say we fully support this, and we are trying to start up our own biking club out. We have a home out in Burnt Ranch as well, and so we're getting groups of people together out there. And so basically just really am excited about the idea of having something for our kids and families to do, another thing in the area. And that's it. Thank you. Did you want to say? No? Okay, thanks.
So thank you very much. If you would contact the district office at your convenience, they can give you my phone number. I'd like to talk to you guys a little about some biking, potential biking, future biking. Sorry, missing the word. Anyway, at your convenience, if you would, I would like to talk to you about biking opportunities. There you go.
Great, thank you.
There are no other hands raised at this time.
All right, very good. So any comments from board members? Seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move per staff recommendation.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call, please?
Sorry, I barely heard who seconded it. Was that Director Bender?
It was.
All right, thank you. So Director Bender.
Aye.
Director Clark-Peterson.
Yes.
Director Couch.
Aye.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
And President Mayo.
Yes, thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to item E5, Consider the approve.
Can I say something really quick?
Absolutely.
I just want to really thank the board and all the community members that showed up to support this project. There's, you know, it started as community first came to the district wanting to see something happen, and they've done a lot of work. I pushed on them to do a lot of legwork to get community support and fact finding and all of that stuff. And they will continue to do a lot of work. And I just really appreciate the time and the board's support in this project. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Leslie, thank you for those remarks. And it's also a testament to perseverance. And, you know, if you've got a project or a desire or something that's burning to get done, you may not get it done right off the bat. And this is a prime example of perseverance, and we're looking forward to it completion. So,
Dennis, can I add something really quick?
yes.
Thank you. So there was a lot of talk about the children, and this is great for the children. I hope there's not an age limit on this track, because there really wasn't a whole lot of talk about adults. I will probably end up in the hospital, but I guarantee you I will be on that track. Thank you.
You have to volunteer to maintain it, James.
It's okay. Just donate a bike to me. I'm there.
Well, I don't know what to say, James. So there you go. All right. So are we on E5 now?
Yes.
Approval resolution 2021-01, authorizing the application for statewide park development and community revitalization program grant funds for the BMX track and park project. And that is, if anybody wants to look on their agenda, it's on page 193, and Leslie will be presenting the staff report on that.
Okay, so just as we are applying for these funds to renovate and expand Pearson Park, to construct the skate park, expand Azalea Hall, renovate the playground there, these funds they also apply to development of a new park. And so we could develop the BMX track and park using these funds. We would like to apply for the grant to do so. We've already started doing public input process for this. And so this resolution is a required part of the application. It would be amazing if we got this grant to be able to fund the entire construction of not just the track, but also like an entire landscaped park area, including a playground. And so that we're asking for the board to review the pertinent information, allow public comment, and adopt resolution 2021-01, authorizing the application for the statewide park development and community revitalization program funding for the development of a BMX track and park at the district-owned property at Washington Avenue and School Road.
Very good, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Is this part of the Prop 68 stuff?
It's the same grant application that it's the same program when we submitted an application for in 2019. We are going to resubmit the application for Pearson Park, as well as provide an additional application for this project.
Yes, and this item is to give the general manager and you as well, Leslie, the authority to sign.
Manager is given the authority.
Okay, yeah, to sign these applications, and so it's an important step in the. It's one of the requirements of the grant application, so that the GM can at a timely way sign this stuff. They don't have, some of this stuff moves at a different pace than our once a month meetings. So that's it. Is there any comments from the public on this?
There are no hand, oh, there is a hand raised. Charlie Caldwell.
Welcome, Charlie.
Hey, board, thank you so much for, I think it's very important that we go after this grant in as many areas as we possibly can because of the competitiveness of it. I really appreciate Leslie going and doing everything she's doing to pull this grant together in such short notice. We got the extension to go to March, and we were able to fit the BMX into it, and you guys giving us the right of entry. And if you approve this, I just think it's a real positive direction for getting this BMX track done in very short order.
Right. Yeah, Charlie, thanks for pointing that out and appreciating that. Leslie has done above and beyond, and you don't get a percentage though, Leslie.
No.
Even though you deserve it.
No, it's okay.
That's all right. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you, Charlie.
Okay.
All right.
Next.
Anybody else?
Oh yeah, we've got two more now. Next is a phone member ending in 741. You will have to do *6. Oh, there you go. You're good.
Welcome.
Thank you, everybody. My name's Devin. I've been working with Jason and Wendy and Leslie trying to develop this track. I kind of feel guilty for not chiming in before. Not much of a meeting type person, but I'm behind the scenes and actually working on the design as we speak. I just want to say thank you to Leslie and everybody that's helping out. This grant would be huge for anybody that's seen the development plan that we've created. It's not cheap. There's a lot of cost that goes into this type of stuff. We can always start small with a dirt track, but being able to have that kind of funding would be huge. I've fit in about 17,000 square feet of park area for this project. And then another 4,500 square feet of area for picnic tables and just miscellaneous stuff that anybody that wants to participate and kind of give any options could. There's space for basketball court. I know I pitched a tennis court at one point. It won't fit. but yeah, I've had a lot of fun.
We got a bocce ball court. Just was mouthing off. We got a bocce ball court that might need revisited.
Ooh, let me mouth off and say maybe pickleball.
There you go. That's becoming very popular, and it's small. I'm in.
Right.
Leslie, didn't we do pickleball inside our teen center at one time?
Prior to the pandemic, we were offering pickleball 2 times a week, once in the morning and once in the evening.
Yeah.
But since the pandemic, we haven't been able to offer it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, soon.
Outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you again. I'm meeting with a local engineer tomorrow to develop some more grading plans and just trying to get steps closer to being able to submit when or if this gets approved. Just trying to do a lot of legwork in the meantime.
Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you for your comments. We appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
Next.
And we have one more, and it's Wendy and Jason Orlandi.
Welcome, Wendy and Jason.
Hi, sorry I talk a lot. I just wanted to give a big shout out to Leslie. She's done a ton of work, and the idea of this grant to be able to have a whole Encompass Park all done beautifully, like every little corner, nook and cranny, would just be amazing. I mean, to have a playground and just everything beautiful, and the bike track can help maintain that beauty, taking out the trash, all of that stuff. it's really exciting. It gets me shaky to even think about it. I'm really excited. So thank you very much, Leslie, and everybody else that's involved with it as well.
Thank you.
And now we have Howard Croy.
Welcome, Howard.
Hello, good evening, board members. Thank you for letting me make a public comment. I just wanted to quickly give my strong support of the BMX track. I'm a local here, father of two, and I'm also a physical therapist. So that goes without saying that I'm a huge proponent of physical fitness and exercise and getting outdoors. And now more than ever, that's just so important for kids and for families. So again, just local, wanted to show my strong support for this project. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
That's great, Howard. And when James rides on the track, he'll probably need your services.
Hey, that's right, job security.
Okay. All right. Now we'll bring it back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board?
I've got one quick question.
Go ahead.
Is this going to be a separate Prop 68 application from the Pearson Park application?
Yeah, you have to, every project has to have its own application. Communities cannot compete with each other. Every application competes with every application submitted across the state. So just because we are submitting two applications, it does not dilute either one of them. They are compared against every application across the state. Does that make sense? So like we could conceivably get both of them. They won't decide, they can't take into consideration like, oh, we're gonna give them this one, so we won't give them the other one. They are ranked on specific scoring criteria, and like the highest points gets the funding.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much. And I also appreciate your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move for staff recommendation.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Right.
Okay, moved in second. Please give a roll call.
Director Binder.
Aye.
Director Clark-Peterson.
Aye.
Director Couch.
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Aye.
And President Mayo.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you all. Moving on to item E6. What?
I had a quick one.
Go ahead.
Before we go on, I just want to have a friendly competition between the BMX people and the skate park to see which one we can get done first.
All right, that's a challenge from Director Couch. All right, thank you, David. All right, E6, consider approval of proposed reserve policy updates. And that is Colleen, our financial director. And if you would please give us your report on that item.
There we go. That's better. I can do that. All right. Of course, staff recommends that the board review the proposed reserve policy update and comparison, discuss, take any public comment, and make any recommendations or adjustments, and approve the updated reserves policy either with or without amendments. To summarize the process, the current reserve policy was created in 2012, and the language is in many ways a little vague and sometimes difficult to implement. The methods of reserve calculation outlined in the 2012 policy sometimes results in reserves that aren't based on risk assessments, and sometimes it results in reserves that are disproportional to both the actual risk and the stated intention. With this revision, what I was trying to do is make sure that the policy operates consistently with the district's other guiding financial policies, that it operates in sync with the capital improvement plan. The baseline requirement for reserve policy is regular review of the district's rate structure, capacity fees, and risk assessments. The various categories of reserves are defined. Each reserve has a specific purpose. The calculations are related to the purpose, and then where and how the money is to be held is also laid out at a policy level, and then under what conditions and circumstances it can be used. The last section of the policy outlines how the reserves funding is to be prioritized. Each section of the policy has been brought before the board prior to this time as an informational item, but this is done as a just a side-by-side comparison at Director Barsanti's request. So yeah, open for any questions, discussion, all the good stuff.
Very good, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question, Colleen. I watched the second half of the board meetings last year, and it seemed like it took a lot of work, and that must feel so good to have these modernized, these policies. So good job. With the state, and Dennis had educated me when I was thinking to run for this position on the state and how they can take our money, and maybe this might be that time period when the state's looking for money. And I'm saying that crassly, I guess, but with what you've done, what is the chances, or is there any fat that they could take, or how would you explain that?
Okay, and that's a good question. The state can take well, what they have done in the past. I really don't know how legal that was, or if they've since passed any kind of guidelines against that. But what they have done in the past is they kind of swooped portions of undesignated reserves, or not, just undesignated funds. And they had what they felt were, good and sufficient reasons for doing that, and getting them to pay that back. Even though they promised to pay it back when they took it, the process of actually getting them to do that was, well, interesting. Let's just say that. One of the things this does is, well, all reserve policies help to designate funds. Because the district doesn't make profits, but we do need to make sure we have enough money to cover expenses, and have a sufficient reserve to meet specific, the specific needs that we need reserves for. And there's a variety of things that we need reserves for. So we have the unrestricted reserves, which is what the state was going after last time. We have the board designated reserves, which is what's addressed in this policy. And a lot of those reserves exist at the discretion of the board. So the board approves this policy saying, yes, these are the kinds of reserves we want to hold. This is how we want them, how we want them handled. And then there's the legally restricted reserves. The state can't touch those because there's someone else with a legal claim on them. So bond issues, loans, compensated absences, there's a bunch of different reserves that are actually legally, capacity fees. They're legally restricted. The state can't touch them, but we still have to keep track of them. We still have to use them appropriately. So, and this reserve policy tries to address that as well as clearly as I can manage it. I don't know if that's helpful in terms of what you were asking, but it does help. To have a policy.
Right. Yeah. I guess I'm still wondering, like, how much is there still room, or have you mitigated it to your best and any possible reality is what it sounds like.
Well, the one of the shortfalls of the current policy is that the way the reserves are calculated, it absorbs like all of the excess funding that we have, which is appropriate. We don't want any excess funding that's sitting out there for the state to just swoop. But the way those reserves are calculated, the buckets were never full. We were never really able to fill them. And part of that is because of the way the reserves were worded and how they were calculated. And you ended up with reserves that were too big, and then some reserves weren't getting funded at all, which is not helpful either. So instead of like taking money out of the reserves, what I've basically done is set it up so that it moves. We have more available for reserves that are less funded, but that need to be funded. In our case, the biggest need is for pension and OPEB unfunded liability. We need to set aside some reserves to start covering that. The pension, not so much, because we've been paying our unfunded liability to CalPERS, but the other post-employment benefits, that is a large liability. It'll get smaller, but it's a fairly significant liability, and we do need to start setting aside reserves, and we haven't had any.
Yeah.
We just haven't had a lot of excess funding for that. So it's not so much of we're just reducing the size of the buckets to something we can actually fill and making sure that we're actually filling those. Is that more helpful?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
it is. Yeah. Thanks for the imagery.
Got it.
Thank you. Let me give you a less technical observation. It's one of the reasons that as a board, and all special districts should, it's one of the reasons that we stay so active, trying to be proactive on this stuff instead of reactive at times, because the fact of the matter is, any funds that we have that are not legally restricted funds, if the state can figure out and decide they want to come after them, they will. And that's just, a reality of life, financial life, and when you're kind of farther down on the power structure of things. So there's that potential at all times. You ask, or I think maybe it was Colleen that said they didn't make any pass any ordinances or provisions to protect us. Well, the state doesn't do that. If they're going to make any provisions, it's to take our money. So anyway, I just wanted to make that little bit of a comment on the thing. So any other board members comments on Colleen's presentation?
Yeah, I would like to comment.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is great, Colleen. We worked on this while I was still employed by the district, and I'm glad to see that it's finally coming to fruition. As you said, our last reserve policy was rudimentary at best, and not as representative as how we do business as it should have been. So I'm glad to see that we've got something that's going to be a little bit more pertinent. Another place to bring this up for our newer board members is if it can be shown that you've got too much reserves and you don't have those reserves actually encumbered or some way to use those or some reserves. What's the word? I'm having a hard time with the word, but anyway, that they're not that those reserves aren't allocated. They can come in and tell you that you have to give that money back to the ratepayers. So we have to always make sure that that those reserves are allocated properly across so that they can be used. An area where I had a question at, Colleen, and this is and I touched on this a little bit during the last question, but so could you explain to me so when we did our last rate studies, we didn't have these issues with the OPEB and the way that we have to book the OPEB liability now, and so now we're having to book the OPEB. How are we going to handle our operating, the money, the reserves that we were putting away for projects, with the fact that we're going to have to start funding the OPEB liabilities.
Well, the reserves that we're putting away for projects in the last rate study, and I'm assuming you're talking directly about the mainline replacement project, that has its own designated portion of the rate structure, right? Because that was specifically called out in the rate study as a thing that we're collecting money for. So that actually gets funded. That's I'm showing that as an invested reserve, but because it's a legally restricted reserve, so that's actually not in the same. I mean, you pull that out of the stream before you fill the pension and OPEB liability, a UAL. I mean, we pay the pension and OPEB liabilities, but the unfunded liability collecting extra money for that happens after it, the mainline project, and truthfully any project where we have a legally designated reserve from a board approved rate study, we can't use that money for the pension, or we can't use it for OPEB. We have to use it for the projects that we collected it for.
Great, that's what I wanted to get on the record. Anyway,
yeah. Very important.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and relative to what Director Orsini mentioned to you, I would suggest, and I'll send this to our GM on an email so you can look at it. But right now we just filed an amicus brief from Association of California Water Agencies on Miners Camp LLC versus Forest Hill Public Utilities District, and it was in association with setting new rates, the 218 process, and setting new rates, and very complicated, but it covers a lot of different angles in this issue. So stuff comes up and goes on all the time with us, and I won't get into it, but it's an interesting read, and those kinds of keeping up on those kinds of things will give you a kind of a wider view of the types of pitfalls we can get into at any time. So anyway, I'll send this to Pat, and he can forward it to all of you if you'd like.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
good. Yeah,
actually.
very good.
Thank you.
All right, good deal.
So I did want to make one final comment, and this goes back to Director Clark-Peterson's question about the. I did a set of calculations for this meeting, and under the 2012 policy, how much we would be holding in reserves if we fully funded all of them, how much we actually would be holding in reserves per the fiscal year 1920, at the end of fiscal year 1920, and then if we adopted this policy, how much we would actually be holding in reserves. So I had some idea of how much we would be, how close we would be to fully funded if we were holding the reserves according to the new policy. And so what I calculated was that under the 2012 policy, we would be required to hold 24,106,000 in reserves. At the end of fiscal year 1920, we would only have been able to fund 15,500,000 of that. So we would be short, 8.4. We'd be short $8.4 million according to that 2012 policy. With our current policy, we would be, as currently calculated, we'd be holding 14,300,000 in reserves, and all the reserves would be fully funded. So we would actually have a little bit of funding in excess of that to contribute to the OPEB or CalPERS UAL, which the board could decide to do. That could be brought to the board for a decision. But so it actually turned out to be pretty good in terms of getting the reserves fully funded, getting them appropriately calculated, and having enough to actually make some contributions to that UAL. And truthfully, once we get that Section 115 trust going for the OPEB, the accrued unfunded liability will actually drop dramatically because we'll be using the return on the investment according to the investment policy, which I will be bringing to the board, instead of using the current treasury rate, which is what it's calculated at right now. So that'll be a big plus.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting numbers. That's satisfying.
I was kind of happy when I got done with that.
Yeah.
So any other questions?
Yeah, I had one other question.
Awesome.
The table that was used at the end of the old reserve policy, is there any thought about continuing using that, or are we going to do away with that?
Oh, the table, yeah, the calculations table.
Yeah.
Well, I used to use a modified version of that to actually try and calculate the reserves at the end of every fiscal year. I think we would probably continue to use some form of it, but the method for calculation is clear enough in the verbiage that, we can just put in a little Excel worksheet that part of the year-end close process. And that, if that needs to be, that could be printed out and brought to the board, or anything, at the board's discretion.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think I would like that.
Okay, we can add that.
And so just one last quick thing for me is that I really appreciate the revision. It's making it a lot easier for me to kind of know what's going on. So anyway, are there any other
more than you think you do?
Well, I'm working hard at it, let me put it that way.
Okay.
So is there any more comments from the board? If not, shall we open this to the public?
There are no hands currently raised from the public.
All right, can I entertain a motion? You're muted, David. So clean up that language now.
You muted again, David.
You're muted.
No, I'm not.
He just
Okay.
wanted to say something nasty to me again. I got it. I can read your lips.
I just wanted to make a motion that we approve the proposed reserve policy update.
Thank you. How about a second?
I'll second.
that. I'll let Director Clark Peterson have that second.
Thank you. Have a roll call, please.
Director Bender.
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson.
Aye.
Director Couch.
Aye.
Director Orsini.
Aye.
And President Mayo.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. And this last item that we or this next item is E7, and it's consider approval of ordinance 2021-01, amending regulation 21, connection charges to address accessory dwelling units, connection fees, and second reading and adoption. And who will be presenting this?
Your general manager.
Thank you. I didn't have my note on here, sorry. I know I asked you that Monday, but I didn't write it down.
Thank you, President Mayo. So this is the second reading. So the first reading of this ordinance was at the December board meeting, but I'm going to run back through the discussion. In 2017, the state of California enacted Government Code Section 65852.2 E and F in order to encourage the development of accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, also known as mother-in-law units, to facilitate affordable housing development throughout the state. Part of the state code made it more streamlined for agency approval and dictated when and if government agencies, including water and sewer agencies, could charge fees for the connection of ADUs. In May through June 2020, Humboldt County Planning Commission held a series of 5 public hearings on draft county ordinances and general plan amendments to reestablish local standards in conformance with the new state code. At the September 1st, 2020 Board of Supervisors meeting, the Board of Supervisors adopted ordinance number 2650, which amends various general plan and county ordinances on ADU developments to conform to the new state regs. The district needs to update our rules and regs, specifically Regulation 21, connection charges, to conform to the state and county regulations with regards to ADU development. Rule 21.03, accessory dwelling units, secondary dwelling unit connection charges, was written and reviewed by legal counsel, and this is the second reading of the ordinance. The main provisions of the rule are to define what constitutes an ADU, detail when connection fees and other fees can be charged for ADU development, and so as I mentioned, the first reading of the ordinance was conducted at the December 2nd board meeting, so staff recommends that the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve the second reading and adoption of ordinance 2021-01 by title only.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion from the board? Do we have any discussion from the public?
Yeah, if I'd just like to, thanks for taking care of this, Pat. It was this has been in flux. This first legislation started in 2016, and they changed it and they passed the first part of this bill at the state in 2017. Then they changed again in 2018, and then they added to it in 2019. So it's gone through multiple different versions of what's going on, and I'm glad they finally have settled on something, and they're going to leave it alone for a while so that we could actually update our rules and regulations. There are a little bit of consideration for the fact that you know, we might be increasing our sewer that's coming into the treatment plant without being able to charge capacity fees for it. But as Pat said, I think, or as it states in the fiscal analysis, I believe it's going to be minimal. And barring no other comments from the board or the public, I'll move for staff recommendation.
And by title only.
Yes.
Thank you. Second, please. Do I have a second? All right. Yeah, don't be shy. Pop right up. All right. Let's have a roll call.
Director Binder.
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson.
Yes.
Director Couch.
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
And President Mayo.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Now we're on to E8, consider approval of ordinance 2021-02, amending Regulation 40, Parks and Recreation Committee, second reading and adoption of Attachment 1, revision to Rules 40, and Attachment 2, ordinance number 2021-02, and ordinance of McKinleyville Community Service District amending Regulation 40, Park and Recreation Committee, MCSD rules and regulations. And we want to do this by title only as well, I believe. And can we
That's
have
correct.
a presentation on that, please?
Yes. So in November, the board approved renaming the former Recreation Advisory Committee to the Park and Recreation Committee. At that time, the committee determined that it would be prudent to revise the committee description to ensure that the committee's scope and duties pertaining to its function as an advisory committee to the MCSD Board of Directors included all things within Parks and Recreation Department's purview: parks, recreation, open spaces, and natural resource management. The district needs to update our rules and regulations, specifically Regulation 40, Parks and Recreation Committee, with a revision of the Parks and Recreation Committee description that clearly defines the committee's scope of duties to include parks, recreation, open space, and natural resource management. The language changes to Rule 40 can be reviewed in Attachment 1, shown in track changes from the original wording. Ordinance 2021-02 can be reviewed in Attachment 2. This is the second reading of the ordinance. The first reading was conducted on December 2nd, 2020. Staff recommends the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2021-02 by title only.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the board? Do we have any comments from the public?
There is one hand raised, and it's Charlie Caldwell.
All right. Welcome, Charlie.
Hello again. Yeah, I'm just here supporting Leslie as the recreation, the Parks and Recreation Committee group, where we all reviewed this in December and agreed that we're moving in the right direction. So I'm here supporting Leslie on presenting this to you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
So could I get a motion by title only on this item?
I'll move per staff recommendation by title only.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Scott, you seconded. Scott, would you be so kind as to get up close to your mic when you want to visit with us? Well, you're muted as well, but yeah, we're having a hard time hearing you, Scott. That's all. All right, roll call.
Director Bender.
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson.
Yes.
Director Couch.
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
And President Mayo.
Yes, thank you. Motion carries. And now we're on to item E9. Consider approval of ordinance 2021-03, amending Regulation 5, connection charges to address accessory dwelling units, water connection fees, and this is a first reading. And is that going to be you, Pat?
That is going to be me. Thank you, President Mayo. So your board secretary, April, actually noted that there's another area in the district's rules and regs that needs to be updated to conform to the ADU requirements that the state and county passed. So missed that the first time around. She caught it, but that's what we're doing here as well. So we need to update Regulation 5, applications for regular water service, to conform to the county and state regulations. And so Rule 5.13, accessory dwelling units, secondary dwelling unit connections charges, was written and reviewed by legal counsel, and Rule 5.09 was edited to conform to the new regulations. So this is the first reading of the ordinance. So staff recommends that the board review information provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve the first reading of the ordinance 2021-03 by title only.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Can I entertain a motion by title only?
So moved.
A second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Director Bender?
Aye.
Director Clark Peterson?
Aye.
Director Couch?
Yes.
Director Orsini?
Yes.
President Mayo?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're moving on to reports. And before we go to the reports, and there'll be some that we don't have, I wanted to just clarify to everybody what our committee assignments are. There were a couple that I go ahead, Director Couch.
I believe you added E10. There was that
Oh,
letter.
oh, thank you for catching that, Dave. Thank you so much. This is the letter of support to Aqua for our letter of consideration to the legislature on California water and Western states water issues. So, Pat, are you interested in giving a Reader's Digest on this?
Sure, I'll do that and then hand it back to you, President Mayo, to address it. So a number of, and here I quote from the letter, Western farmers, ranchers, water providers, businesses, and communities who provide the food our nation relies upon through use of millions of acres of productive land, as well as many of the local and regional public water agencies that supply water to over 50 million Western urban, suburban, and rural residents, close quote, have prepared a letter to the 117th session of Congress. The gist of the letter is to ask Congress to consider, as part of the economic stimulus measures to help the country recover from the negative impacts of COVID-19, the shortcomings of aging agricultural and rural water infrastructure in any further or future infrastructure or recovery packages. So as I mentioned at the beginning, President Mayo just received an email from the Association of California Water Agencies on Monday asking if the district wanted to be a signatory of that letter. And the intent is to send that letter to Congress tomorrow. So staff recommends that the board review the information provided, discuss, take public comment, and approve becoming signatories to the January 7th, 2021 Western Water Letter to the 117th session of Congress. So
Yeah, thank you, Pat. And this is and something we do every year, well, every 2 years actually, to the new Congress, and it's somewhat boilerplate, but it has more specifics at times. Of course, this time the pandemic and the effects of the pandemic on all of our water systems is a great part of this. And in a lot of respects, it's a, hey, remember we're here communication. It'll go to the correct committees and committee chairmen, and it's the type of correspondence that's necessary to have great backing. They want to see all of us supporting this because we're talking to representatives from Iowa and South Carolina, etc., than asking them to support different types of legislations that support infrastructure out in the West. So when you do that, when they start vetting the support for this, they need to see huge support. And so MCSD has been an active member at Aqua and California Special Districts, and it's been our practice to support these efforts to, quite frankly, bring money back to our districts. So I would hope that you all would support this and let the general manager shoot off a quick support to this. So if there's any questions, go ahead. And are there any questions from the public?
There
Okay.
is one hand raised, Randy Turner.
Go right ahead. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking the time. I have been working in water policy and water issues on the North Coast for nearly a couple decades now. I'm a former member of Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District. And so I'm very familiar with Aqua, and they do provide a lot of value in general. But I would like to recommend MCSD vote no on this agenda item. The letter really makes it sound like it has a broad list of benefits that may help rural water providers like us. But in reading it, in reading the details, which I hope you can do before you vote, it seems like it's all kind of about taxpayer welfare for agricultural water districts. Any benefits to small municipal water providers like us would likely be a rounding error in whatever legislation is out there. And if you, before you vote, please look at that list of signatories at the end. Nearly every organization supporting this letter is either an irrigation district, crop association, or something similar. If you're not seeing municipal water districts on that list, there's probably a reason they don't support it. And that's why I don't think you should support it either. It's the recommendations they have. They're kind of a laundry list of, long-term issues that have been caused by the overuse of water in the West. So while they mention things like water conservation, they tie it in with new water storage. It's not just water conservation, but water conservation with new water storage, which are dams that without, kind of federal welfare, they would never be built. We're in a really unique situation here on the North Coast. We have more water than we know what to do with, as we heard earlier. We're one of the few communities in California where water isn't already overallocated. So any additional water to fill any new hypothetical dams just creates additional pressure on ecosystems and other water users, and we're fighting over water even more. Additionally, the suggestions they make for streamlining environmental regulations, it's a code word for gutting environmental regulations, which I hope you wouldn't support. If the district needs to get support for COVID-related funding, that's important, but I would hope you would find another avenue to look for that funding. Agricultural water districts will get the lion's share of any benefits, and municipal water districts will only get crumbs, but we'll all get the taxpayer liability to pay for it. So I hope you, in this case, you would not support signing this letter for, corporate agriculture welfare, because it's not going to be a lot of benefit for the district. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other comments?
There are no other hands raised.
All right, bring it back. So as was pointed out, there is many aspects to the Western water issue. Many municipalities are supporting this. As a matter of fact, Aqua has almost 500 agencies, and many are not large as we aren't. But one of the things that gets confused about storage is not always new dams. Storage is sometimes enhancing a dam. Storage is sometimes necessary work that was done on Oroville Dam. And also storage tanks, recharging. That's, it's part of the water industry. It's part of California's infrastructure. Our farms are very important. They, and in terms of conservation, storage is very important to conservation. And so this is a non-controversial request. And the thing about crumbs is an interesting aspect to everything we do in relationship to how we get funding for our projects. IRWIP is a prime example in California. We go to the state revolving fund to try to do our projects. And we've worked really, really hard for rural communities in the IRWIP program, and it's provided great benefits to us. We also, in a similar legislative effort at Forts, we worked very hard to get a dedicated 5% of the water funds that come to the state of California dedicated to special districts. And that's never happened before. And Aqua was one of the leading supporters of that, as was California Special Districts. So everything's not perfect. There are give and takes on what happens out there. I would suggest that the issue that's going to come up on the Trinidad water, the Rancheria water, is going to be one of those issues that is similar to this type of a thing. Well, why should you do this for that and not this for that? Well, in the state of California, we all pay the bill no matter what happens. If the state doesn't do well, none of us do well. And our district has been supported strongly by Aqua, very strongly. And we've worked really hard to enhance water quality. We've worked in, and this kind of bill is important to not just infrastructure, but the finance of studies. Underserved communities, water quality issues. That's one of the things that we work on with this type of money too. And it may seem like some of it is not a lot of money, but in the larger scope of things, if a huge area gets 125 million and a place like McKinleyville gets $4.5 million, just look what we've done with $4.5 million. We're putting in this beautiful solar array. So anyway, that's the best that I can explain to you, that this is a positive and something that we do all the time. And I would appreciate that we support this. And so I'm going to, if there's no further questions from the board, I'm going to ask someone to make a motion.
Yeah, I have a question. So this letter is supported by Aqua?
Yes. And I believe, Greg, CSDA. I believe CSDA as well. So.
Well, that being said, I'll move per staff recommendation.
And do I have a second? No second?
Well, I'll second it, but I'll
Okay.
qualify it in that I'm probably going to vote yes in deference to you, but I probably agree quite a bit with Mr. Turner.
Well, and Dave, I agree, and there's a lot there that I agree with too. As we've talked before, all of us, we've worked really, really hard as small districts to get our foot in the door with all the big guys, and to be represented in these larger associations and unions of people working on things. And there's a lot of give and take involved in it, and there always will be. So I appreciate that though, David.
And
go ahead, Greg.
Thank you. Yeah, and also, we've had this, we've run up against this many times, and Dennis, you and I have had this conversation many times, that a lot of times we might not necessarily agree with a piece of legislation, but or personally, or say something like this, but as it relates to the whole and the positive impact that it has, sometimes, you know, you just got to put your personal feelings aside and go with it. So that's my feeling too.
Right. And, you know, quite frankly, we don't have any idea how it's all going to shake out. You know, which bill will get supported, which type of things will get funded. We also, through this mechanism, we also support our fire protection. You know, our headwaters forest issues. We just never know. When the money comes, we do know that we're going to get a piece of it. And so, anyway, thank you all. Let's have a roll call vote.
Director Bender.
Aye.
Director Clark-Peterson.
Aye.
Director Couch.
Yes.
Director Orsini.
Yes.
And President Mayo.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Dave, for catching that. I appreciate it. We generally get these way ahead, and part of the COVID nightmare is some of this stuff is it's harder to get. Everybody's doing their stuff from home or you know, so these things, traditionally we've had a chance to discuss these type of things without it being, geez, we need this tonight. So anyway, so let me go over what has been solidified for our active committees. So we have Park and Recreation Committee, and that is Mr. Bender and Mr. Clark-Peterson. Are we good on that? Okay. Area Fund is John Kolstad and Clark-Peterson. Redwood Economic Development Corporation is Clark-Peterson and Bender. The McKinleyville Community Senior Board Liaison is Clark-Peterson and Bender. The Audit Committee is Orsini and Couch. Employee Negotiations is Couch and Mayo. McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee is Orsini and Bender. Humboldt Local Agency Formation Commission is Couch and Couch. You're your own backup, David. The Environmental Matters Committee is Couch and Clark-Peterson. And if sometime one or the other of you could give me a call, I've got a couple things that I thought would be pretty interesting community-wise to do, and I'd like to run them by you, and then you guys can decide whether you think it's good or not. The Audit Committee is going to be, no, excuse me, the Ad Hoc Forestry Committee is going to be Mayo and Orsini. And the Ad Hoc Latent Powers Committee is Couch and Orsini. So, having said that, I don't know how many meetings we may or may not have, so let's run through them and see. Park and Rec. Nobody. I think, Leslie, are you still with us? We might have lost Leslie. And is there anything you want to add to the committee report, Leslie?
I can't hear you. I'm here.
Anything
Sorry.
you would like to add to the Recreation Committee?
Nothing different from my minutes, which were
There
in
you
my.
go. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're just running through it because I made some more, finalized the adjustments, and so many of us didn't have meetings either. So the area fund, I imagine there was no meeting of the area fund. And Redwood Region Economic Development Commission, I have nothing to report. And Jolene, have you been in contact with them at all yet? Have they contacted you?
No, no connection yet.
Okay. If it's all right with the general manager, could you call me and I'll give you the contact number of the lady that you should talk to?
Yeah, and April was going to reach out to them as well and make sure that they're aware that it has switched.
Yeah.
I
So-
reached out to them again just yesterday, and I have not heard back.
Right. Well, I'll give Shirley a call, and so, okay, very good. The McKinleyville Senior Center, did we have anything there? And I don't think so, because nothing's
No.
happening there. Yeah. The Audit Committee. Anything, David?
Well, we're going to meet next week.
Well, that's good. That's good.
I think.
Yeah.
We're reviewing the draft audit right now.
Yeah. Well, good. Thank you, guys. Employee negotiation. And I don't know anything about it. How about you, Dave?
No meetings. I'm not
Okay.
sure when we're up for our next cycle of.
Okay. McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee.
Oh, we met, and we've got another meeting on the 13th, and then another at the end of the month too. So we met and we had the opportunity to review sort of a rough draft of the layout for the town center. The majority of the meeting revolved around town center planning, and I think that Dennis, you attended the meeting. You
Yes.
The vast majority of it. I think that one of the things that I think that it's a reoccurring theme is people get hung up and forget about the fact that there's all sorts of stuff in the town center already, and they're wanting to duplicate it all in the town center, like things that are already in the park, in Pearson Park, and so I think that's just going to be a communications and messaging thing that we have to do. And also, but Cash Bujas has done a great job in visualizing sort of the layout of what the parks or what the town center is going to look like. Some of the rough wetland delineation. We are moving forward with utilizing a 3-parameter wetland as opposed to a single parameter wetland, so that there's actually some usable property back there. But we're working forward on it. It's definitely a making sausage sort of process.
Right. Yeah, Greg, thank you. I did, only comment that I made at that meeting was just that I don't want to see duplication of things that we already have that are successful, and I don't want them excluded. I was going to get a hold of Cash, but I wanted to wait for this meeting to talk to you about that. I would like to see on that drawing on the plot plan, I would like to see it expanded that so that it does take in the shopping center and the senior center and the library and Pearson Park and the teen center. I'd like to see that included in that overall, so that when they look at the town center, they're not just looking at this little thing, which I know is where we're doing the new planning, but without that component being there to look at as you do that, people get the wrong impression of what's available and needed, et cetera.
I 100% agree. I know that on Pearson Park, there's only about half of it in the preliminary layout. The rest of the shopping center is there, but he had purposely not done anything with it, other than just, have placeholders for the buildings that are already there.
Right.
I will pass that on though.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how exactly you guys want to format that, but I think it should be, you should have an overall map, and then you flip the page and you have your new planning map or something. I don't know. Anyway,
Well,
thank
the thing
you.
about it is that we have to understand that we're only in the second part of the preliminary. There'll be more to come.
Right.
He's only worked that far into it. So
Right.
we actually, I sit on the nonprofit for Life Care Humboldt, and we actually had a meeting with him today to get him to actually pencil in some our project into the town center too.
Yeah.
Which
Good.
we're working forward on too. So which was important because it's not shown on there either.
Great. All right. Well, that was just a little addition to the deal. Thank you so much. And that looks like that for active committee reports. And do we have the legislative and regulatory reports? I gave you guys the update on that lawsuit, which does have some pertinence to our second unit issue, our accessory dwelling units. You guys read that, and it's more informational to you than anything else, I would think, unless the lawsuit you were talking about things getting settled for a while, and I hope that's correct, but a lawsuit could change all that. We might be back on changes next year. But anyway, that just so staff reports, support services department, Colleen.
I have I only wanted to touch briefly on two things in the staff report. The first of which is the per the board's direction, and specifically per John Corbett's request, I've been doing some additional research into CalPER's current portfolio status, their projected rate of return. His specific question was about private equity investments. I did attend a workshop for pre-funding the unaccrued or unfunded accrued liabilities. But the workshop, aside from addressing that specifically, also provided a nice overview of CalPER's investment returns. And they talked a bit about the broad portfolio investment strategy. Subcomponents of their investment, like in this case, specifically private equity investments, were not reviewed separately from the broader strategy. However, I did make a good connection at CalPERS. There is my contact there said he would be willing to set up a workshop or a special meeting to review the information in more depth. And so if either the audit committee or the full board would like me to arrange that, that can be arranged. The only other comment I would like to make in my staff report is that the next level of rate increases as part of the current board approved rate study will take effect this month. The base rate for a 5/8 residential meter will increase by $1.04. Unit charges per unit will increase by 10% per unit of water used. A unit of water, just for those who don't know, is 100 cubic feet, and it runs out to be about 748 gallons. So, and if you're using more than 8 units of water per month, the increase per unit is 25 cents per unit. Sewer base rates will also increase by slightly less than $1. and the sewer usage charges will go up by 8 cents per unit, up to 12 units, which is the cutoff for sewer. And that was, I just wanted to make sure that got into the record, and that was all, unless anybody's got questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, moving on to Operations Department, James Hendry.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Park and Recreation Department, Leslie, anything else to report?
I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. And the General Manager report, our GM.
I'm also going to say I have nothing further to add unless the board has questions.
Well, you're on my good list now. Thank you.
I did have a question for General Manager Kaspari. Have we heard anything on the recycled water grant?
Yep, we just have been going back and forth with Sonny. He thought he was going to have that approved in December, but we didn't hear anything. So we just sent him an email here this week, and he said, yeah, his boss has been out with the holidays and everything. But now he's saying he thinks it's going to get approved in January. So it looks like we're going to get funding for that.
Great.
You want to give the new board members a little bit of a real quick 2-sentence brief on what that will cover?
Do you want to do that?
Sure, I can do that. I can do that. I believe it was $150,000, and it's to basically do a recycled water study on the Pelosi, on the new property that we have, to be able to do groundwater study, geo work, and be able to figure out for planning in the future how to best apply water to the Pelosi property. And we're going to get the majority of that work will probably be done through the grant.
And where does that grant come from?
The SRF grant.
Yeah.
Fund.
Yeah. Pretty nice to get money passed down from the feds to the state that we get little bitty crumbs of that allow us to do important things.
It goes through, yeah, that's definitely, it's federal money that ends up through the state revolving fund.
Absolutely, brother.
To trickle down to us.
All right. Thank you. So on the president's report, I just wanted to thank everybody for their patience in this process, and just wanted to remind everybody to not be shy about jumping right in and making seconds or motions, and to get right up to them, Mike, so we can hear you. And then if there's anything that you need to stop for, if you want to take a bio break, or if there's something going on around the house that you need to attend to, just say, hey, let's take a break, and we'll take a break, okay? And other than that, I'll finish up with how I started, and give a little God bless America, and reflect on the kind of the horrible totality of things for a while that kind of culminated today. And let's hope we all do much better. Thank you. Have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Good night.